Hello, this is my review on the new Doctor Who episode for Series 6, The Impossible Astronaut. I had to watch this episode twice because it makes no sense. Yeah, and I'm going to watch it again, actually, on Saturday. I'll get into that later, but I'm going to read this review right from my blog post. And I will link my blog in the bottom bar if you want to read it. I don't know. It's exactly what I'm saying. But I'm going to add more detail to what I'm saying because I can talk faster than I can type. So I didn't type all the detailed stuff. Alright. So, here we go. So after watching it the first time, I was utterly confused. I only understood the first half of the episode at the end of the episode, but the second half still slightly befuddled me. For the first time I watched it, what I'll discuss is River's song. She was absolutely marvelous, as usual. She's my favorite character, by the way. But I felt that she was a little too emotional at some points. So what I mean is, I loved her emotional scenes, but I think that we went way into it. On her monologue. I loved her monologue, but I just felt like she went way more into it than she had to. Yeah. The silence. Apparently, there's a big discussion on Tumblr on whether the aliens in this episode are actually the silence or not, because someone states that Stephen Moffat said that the silence would not be in the first episode, but most of the Whovian sites say that it is the silence, so I'm calling it the silence because I wrote this before I heard any of this. So, the silence. They were very mysterious, and something we haven't seen before, so it became automatically interesting because it was something different, I was very frustrated that no one remembered them, and they remind me of Dementors, except without cloaks, and wearing suits, and he had huge hands. Yes. Amy Pond. So basically, at the beginning of the episode, the Doctor dies. And Amy wants to save the Doctor. And I understand. But if she does, then they won't have to come to 1969. Then he'll just end up dying again. Which creates a paradox. And it makes sense if you do not think about it. Yes. She's the one that encounters the silence the most, and she partially remembers them, but not in a way where she actually remembers them, just that she remembers as to tell the Doctor something super important. Which brings to my next point, is Amy really pregnant? Or is she just saying that because she can't remember what she's supposed to tell the Doctor? I don't think she's pregnant. I just think it's the silence speaking in her mind. The Doctor. In the beginning of the episode, he's 1103, and he invited Amy, Roy, and River to Utah, and they have a picnic, but then he gets shot by an alien with, these green pulsey thing right in the middle of his regeneration process. Amy, Rory, and River meet Canton, Delaware, whatever his name is, and they burn his body in Viking style, and they return to the diner they had met earlier. And they're trying to figure out who else he invited, because they figured out that the envelopes were numbered. Canton's envelope said 4, Amy and Rory's envelope said 3, and River said 2. So they're like, oh, well, there must be someone in mind that was 1. And number 1 would be the person he trusted the most. And so they ponder, they find the envelope, they BS, which is brainstorm, according to my English teacher. They BS for a bit when a 107-year-old doctor joins them. He was the one who received the last invitation, and he doesn't know anything about what Amy, Rory, and River had just witnessed. For Rory, well, I am enjoying seeing Rory more in the episodes. When I first met Rory, I thought he was an unnecessary addition to the TARDIS crew, but I'm looking forward to see his character develop, and I'm excited to see him more. Arthur's name has been put into the opening credits. The little girl. She calls President Nixon and tells him about the silence. And she uses a fake name, which is Jefferson Adams Hamilton. The first time I watched the episode, I didn't get the point of that. But then I found out later it was, oh, I get it, because this is the part that I missed watching it the first time. she was saying where she was. There were 3 street names that she was outside of, because she was calling from Florida. The doctor was able to pinpoint where she was calling from, and she finds them, but she's dressed in a spacesuit, and Amy assumes that she's the astronaut that killed the doctor, and she shoots her. But we learn later in the next time trailer that she didn't die, so they need to work on their next time trailers. It just ruined a whole bunch of the episode. Okay, and so then I watched it again, and I understood it so much more. But some stuff was still a little confusing for me. Like the bit at the beginning with the painting and the parrot-like people. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. I liked how Amy found all the history references in the Doctor, and I thought that was hilarious. And I love the part where he was waving at them from some old movie with the bez on. The letters. The first time I saw the letters, it gets delivered to Amy and Rory, and then Amy tosses it, and we have this clever angle where it looks like she tosses it in a storm cage. And the first time I watched that, I was like, wait, how did the envelope get to storm cage? And then I realized, oh, 2 different envelopes. Yeah. The astronaut. It frustrates me because I don't know what the heck's going on with this astronaut. We don't know who it is, where it came from, why it wants to kill the doctor, how it kills the doctor. It has this green pulsey thing. Well, how does that work? And my sister thinks that it's River, but I don't think so because, well, obviously she killed someone, and many people think that it's the doctor, but that was in her past. She was in Storm Cage, and then she went to the picnic in 1969, which was a billion years before she went to Storm Cage. And if it was in her past, she would have known about the astronaut. Now, if she'd already done it, it makes sense if you don't think about it. One thing that I loved is how sometimes the Doctor felt awkward around River when they fancy each other before they go out. They'll have those awkward moments. And it was funny because it tells us that he might be developing feelings for her, and we know that he is because second part of the episode, just watch it. It's going to be amazing. Another thing, there are a few things that were overused, and most of them had to do with River, but there was a lot of River talking about how the Doctor would be the death of her, which is true. That's how she dies in Forest of the Dead, but I felt like she was mentioning it too much. I think she was said it 2 or 3 times, but, I think saying it once would be enough. I definitely loved her monologue and her thing with them traveling in opposite directions in the timeline. Although I don't like the traveling opposite directions, I like the meeting up in random places, not completely going in different directions. That makes me kind of sad, Yeah. Another thing that was overused was the Doctor I hate you, no you don't bit. It was funny. I liked it in Flesh and Stone, and I liked it when they were in the Oval Office, but at that point, it had already been overused. If they had skipped the bit with the scanner, seriously, he can't even hear her when she says it that time. It would have been okay. I think that they should limit that line to at least once an episode, or once every 2 episodes. I think at the beginning it was moving really fast, but I suppose it had to move that fast because in order to fit all the stuff that they wanted to fit into the episode. Although one bad thing about a story moving really quickly is that the watcher will become easily confused and they'll puzzle over the beginning until things start to make sense. For me, things didn't start to make sense till the middle of the episode. And this also happened while reading the book Mark from the House of Night series. I have high hopes for the Day of the Moon because it seems like that's where all the more epic stuff will come in. And my friend April's coming over. We're going to rewatch Impossible Planet. Well, I'm going to watch it for the 3rd time. And she's going to watch it for the first time because she missed it on Saturday. And then we're going to watch Day of the Moon. And maybe it'll make more sense to her. Mostly because she's a year older than me. And she's watching them both, in order. She's not watching the first one, then waiting a week, then watching the second one. She's actually going to watch them, back to back. So it might make more sense for her. I don't know. We're going to see how that works out. So I'll see you next week with my review of Day of the Moon. She right in the middle of his regeneration. Um, um, and, um, and his name has been, and Arthur's name has been, but she doesn't call them silence, she calls them monsters. And I later find, I like, what's going on there? I don't know. Makes me, um, um, and because it's, like, usually, like, two people, okay, for one thing, okay, they're, because that's how she ends, you know, although I love her monologue, I liked it in Stone and Flesh, Flesh and Stone, why are I Stone and Flesh? Typo, once I didn't start, I didn't get anything till, like, the third chapter, yeah, and I get to